Commander Zextoril stood motionless before the observation deck, his four eyes narrowed as Earth rotated slowly beneath the Hegemony flagship dominant accord. His iridescent scales reflected the blue glow of the planet, casting shifting patterns across his ceremonial armor. Magnificent, isn't it? His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vexnar, joined him at the viewport. To think they evolved on such a water-rich world. A curiosity, nothing more, Zextoril replied, mandibles clicking in what his species considered dismissive amusement. Their technological advancement is precisely what our predictive models anticipated. Primitive combustion engines, rudimentary digital systems, and warships built from common metals that would buckle under our scout vessels' weapons. The holographic display beside them flickered to life, showing detailed scans of Earth's military installations. Aircraft carriers, jet fighters, and missile systems appeared as wireframe models, each labeled with performance capabilities that made the Hegemony officers exchange meaningful glances. Their most advanced weapons still rely on chemical propellants, Vexnar observed, scrolling through the data. They haven't even unified their planetary government. Zextoril's upper left eye twitched in satisfaction. The High Council chose wisely in sending us. This system has abundant resources, and these humans will require minimal subjugation effort. Prepare the diplomatic team. We'll initiate first contact protocols at their United Nations facility. Admiral Helena Reyes felt a headache building behind her eyes as she reviewed the satellite footage for the fifth time. The alien vessel had appeared 3 days ago, materializing just beyond lunar orbit without triggering a single early warning system. Its crystalline hull defied radar analysis, and its size, nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, made Earth's largest battleships look like children's toys. "They're scanning us again," Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported, glancing up from his console in the Pentagon's newly established First Contact Division. More detailed this time. "They're focusing on military installations." Reyes nodded, her expression carefully neutral despite the cold dread settling in her stomach. "Let them look. Everything they're seeing is exactly what we want them to see." "The Security Council is assembled in New York, Admiral," her aide announced from the doorway. "Your transport is ready." As Reyes gathered her materials, her secure phone vibrated. The message was simple: Thunderchild Phase 3 complete. Awaiting your signal. She allowed herself a small smile before deleting the message. The United Nations General Assembly Hall had never felt so crowded yet so silent. Diplomats from every nation sat rigid in their seats as the delegation of aliens processed down the central aisle. Commander Zextoril led his team with practiced dignity, his towering frame nearly twice the height of the human security detail flanking them. Secretary General Mbeki rose from his seat, extending his hands in the universal gesture of peaceful greeting they had agreed upon through preliminary communications. "On behalf of humanity, we welcome representatives of the Galactic Hegemony to Earth." Zextoril inclined his head slightly, the minimum gesture of acknowledgement to a lesser species. "The Hegemony extends its protection to promising civilizations. We have evaluated your world and find it worthy of incorporation into our collective." Admiral Reyes, seated in the third row, catalogued every nuance of the aliens' behavior. The slight hesitation before promising, the dismissive tilt of their secondary appendages, the unmistakable confidence of predators who had never become prey. Later that evening, as the diplomatic reception dragged on, Zextoril approached her with the fluid grace his species was known for. "Admiral Reyes," he said, his translation device rendering his clicks and whistles into precise English. "I was particularly interested in your naval capabilities. Perhaps a demonstration could be arranged." "Of course, Commander," she replied with a practiced smile. "We would be honored to show you our aircraft carriers. They're the pride of our fleet." Beneath the Pacific Ocean, 5,000 kilometers away, engineers put the final touches on the ESS Mjolnir*, the first of humanity's true warships. Its revolutionary drive system powered up silently, leaving no thermal signature that alien sensors could detect. The deception was proceeding exactly as planned. 2 weeks after first contact, Zex Toril drummed his elongated fingers against the polished conference table. The human delegation had just requested its 4th consultation period to consider the hegemony's protection agreement. His patience was wearing dangerously thin. "Your species' deliberative process is inefficient," he said, mandibles clicking in barely contained frustration. "The benefits we offer are substantial. Hegemony protection means no other spacefaring races will contest your system." Across the table, Ambassador Chen maintained her diplomatic smile. "We appreciate the hegemony's generosity, Commander. Earth's nations simply need time to achieve consensus. Our political systems value careful consideration." What Zex Toril didn't know, what his scans couldn't reveal, was that every hour of delay was meticulously calculated. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Sanjay Kapoor hunched over displays showing atomic-level interactions that defied classical physics. Around him, a team of scientists from 12 nations worked in focused silence. "The gravitational calibration is still off by 0.03%, he muttered, rubbing bloodshot eyes. "If we can't stabilize the field, the entire shield matrix will collapse under concentrated fire." Dr. Elena Volkov looked up from her own terminal. "What if we're approaching this wrong? Instead of fighting the graviton interference, what if we incorporate it into the resonance pattern?" Kapoor's eyes widened. He rapidly input new parameters, and the simulation transformed. The mathematical model stabilized, showing clean energy flow through the shield matrix. "Elena, you brilliant woman," he breathed, watching as the virtual shield absorbed and redistributed energy instead of merely deflecting it. "Get Admiral Reyes on the quantum channel." Project Thunderchild just became viable. On the Hegemony flagship, Science Officer Mrilvex frowned at her sensor readings. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy fluctuations from Earth's moon." Zex Toril barely glanced up from his tactical projections. "Specify." "Brief bursts of high-energy particles, unlike anything in our database on primitive nuclear technologies." "The pattern suggests—" She hesitated. "Suggests what, Science Officer?" Zex Toril fixed her with all 4 eyes. "Possibly advanced weapons testing. But that's inconsistent with our technological assessment of humans." "Your concern is noted," Zex Toril replied dismissively. "Their lunar installations are minimal research outposts. More likely your instruments need recalibration after exposure to this system's unusual radiation profile." Relvex's skin flushed dark purple with suppressed disagreement, but she merely bowed. "As you say, Commander." Admiral Reyes stood at the observation window of Lunar Station Alpha, watching as the first Thunderchild-class vessel emerged from its underground construction bay. The EF's Excalibur gleamed under the harsh spotlights, its hull composed of a nanolattice material that would render it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. "Beautiful, isn't she?" General Okafor said, joining Reyes at the window. "Beauty is secondary," Reyes replied, though she couldn't help but admire the vessel's sleek lines. "Function is what matters. Will she fight?" Okafor handed her a tablet displaying test results. "The shield technology Dr. Kapoor developed doesn't just protect. It absorbs energy and redirects it to our weapon systems. The more they hit us, the harder we hit back." Reyes nodded slowly. "And our timeline? 3 ships operational now. Mjolnir, Excalibur, and Kusanagi. 4 more will be ready within 2 weeks. It may not be enough," Reyes murmured. "It will have to be," Okafor replied grimly. "Our intelligence suggests the hegemony is growing impatient. They're not used to species who don't immediately submit to their protection." Reyes tapped her comm unit. "Tell Ambassador Chen to request another week of deliberation. We need every hour we can get." Below them, the Excalibur slipped silently from its cradle and glided toward a hidden launch tunnel. No exhaust plume, no radiation signature, no heat bloom. Nothing the hegemony sensors would recognize as a warship powering up. Earth's greatest deception continued, but the clock was ticking. Enough delays. Vexnar slammed his armored fist onto the command console, causing junior officers to flinch. The humans mistake our patience for weakness. The Hegemony War Council chamber fell silent. After a month of fruitless negotiations, Zex Toril had been recalled for consultation, leaving his second-in-command to resolve the impasse. "What do you propose?" asked Tactical Director Krell, her scales shifting to a deeper shade of blue. Vexinar's mandibles clicked decisively. A measured demonstration. Not Earth itself, that would force immediate capitulation or resistance. The Mars colony presents an ideal target: 10,000 humans, minimal defenses, and high strategic value. He activated a holographic display showing the red planet and its modest human settlement. "We destroy their infrastructure, but allow survivors to evacuate. Earth will witness our power without having their homeworld directly threatened. They will accept our terms within hours." Krell nodded slowly. "The High Council authorizes your action. Deploy the third battle group." Alarms blared throughout the Mars Colonial Administration complex. Governor Eliza Santos moved with practiced calm as she addressed 3,000 colonists gathered in the main dome. "This is not a drill. We have confirmed reports of hegemony vessels approaching Mars. All citizens are to proceed to designated shelter zones. Essential personnel, remain at your stations." No panic erupted. Every Mars colonist had rehearsed this scenario dozens of times in the months since first contact. What the approaching aliens couldn't know was that the civilian shelters doubled as hardened military bunkers with comprehensive sensor arrays. In her private office, Santos activated a quantum-encrypted channel. "Admiral Reyes, Scenario Red is in progress. Hegemony battle group approaching. Estimated arrival 40 minutes. Reyes's holographic image nodded. "Proceed as planned, Governor. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the underground facilities. Make it look good." "And the countermeasure?" "In position. Captain Wei Lin and the Mjolnir are stationed behind Phobos. Her orders are to wait until they've committed to the attack." Santos exhaled slowly. "So we just let them bomb us?" "Empty structures only," Reyes assured her. "The real Mars colony has been gradually moving underground for 3 weeks. What they'll destroy is essentially a movie set." On Earth, telecommunications networks broadcast the hegemony's message across every channel. People of Earth, witness the consequence of continued defiance. The Mars colony will serve as demonstration of hegemony resolve. Submit to protection terms within 24 hours, or further consequences will follow. United Nations Secretary-General Mbeki issued Earth's response. "We implore the hegemony to reconsider this unprovoked aggression against our peaceful settlement. Mars colony contains only scientific and civilian personnel." The performance continued exactly as scripted. Captain Wei Lin of the EFSS Mjolnir watched her tactical display as 5 hegemony vessels entered Mars orbit. Her ship, nestled in Phobos' gravitational shadow, remained undetected by alien sensors. "Weapons status?" she asked quietly. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez checked his console. "Nuclear force capacitors at maximum charge. Shield systems optimal. Stealth field stable." Wei Lin nodded, her expression betraying nothing of the historic weight of the moment. "Confirm our targeting solutions. When they commence bombardment, we allow them 30 seconds to commit fully to the attack." "Captain," her communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving real-time sensor feeds from Mars surface. Governor Santos reports all personnel secured in underground facilities. The targets are completely empty." A ghost of a smile crossed Wei Lin's face. "Good. Now we wait for them to take the bait." On her view screen, the lead hegemony vessel began positioning for orbital bombardment, its weapon ports glowing with charged energy. The aliens had no idea they were being lured into humanity's carefully laid trap. "Prepare to disengaging stealth on my mark," Wei Lin ordered. Let's show the galaxy what humanity's warships can really do. Vexnar stood triumphant on the command deck of the inexorable Justice, his four eyes gleaming with satisfaction as the view screens displayed multiple bombardment sites across the Martian surface. Brilliant flashes of energy erupted wherever their weapons struck, vaporizing human habitation domes and research facilities in spectacular explosions that sent dust clouds billowing into the thin Martian atmosphere. "Continue targeting their power generation facilities," he ordered, his voice carrying the practiced calm of a commander who had overseen dozens of similar operations. "I want their entire infrastructure reduced to slag." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, many of them veterans of the hegemony's expansion campaigns. To them, this was merely another demonstration of inevitable technological superiority, a lesson taught countless times to species across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. "Sir, we've destroyed approximately 60% of visible infrastructure," reported his tactical officer. "No sign of defensive measures." "Excellent." Vexnar opened a channel to the entire battle group. "Maintain bombardment pattern. When complete, prepare broadcast to Earth detailing terms off." "Commander." The sensor operator's voice rose with sudden urgency. Anomalous reading behind Phobos. Vexnar turned, irritation flickering across his features. "Specify." "Unknown energy signature. It's moving." The main view screen shifted to show Phobos, Mars' smaller moon. For a moment, nothing seemed amiss. Then, a sleek vessel emerged from behind the moonlet, smaller than even the hegemony support ships, but with a design unlike anything in their extensive catalog of known spacecraft. Its hull gleamed with an iridescent material that seemed to both absorb and reflect light, confounding standard optical sensors. "Magnify," Vexnar ordered, his voice betraying the first hint of uncertainty. The image zoomed in on the human vessel. No visible weapon ports mirrored its seamless hull. No conventional engines disturbed its perfect symmetry. It simply existed, defying hegemony understanding of propulsion technology. "Scan it," he demanded. The science officer worked frantically at her console. "Sir, our sensors are having difficulty penetrating its hull. The material appears to be some kind of. The readings don't make sense. It's registering as both solid matter and energy simultaneously." "Impossible," Vexnar hissed. "No pre-spacefaring civilization cold." "Sir, the vessel is accelerating toward us." On the view screen, the human ship moved with impossible grace, covering the distance between Phobos and the hegemony battle group in seconds rather than the minutes physics should have required. Vexnar's training finally overcame his shock. "Raise shields. Target that vessel and fire." The inexorable Justice shuddered as its weapon systems discharged, sending lances of coherent energy toward the approaching human ship. To the bridge crew's collective astonishment, the beams seemed to bend around the vessel's hull, dissipating harmlessly into space. "No impact," the tactical officer reported, his voice climbing in pitch. "They're still approaching." Captain Wei Lin sat calmly in the command chair of the EFS Mjolnir as her ship accelerated toward the hegemony battle group. Around her, the bridge crew worked with the focused intensity of people aware they were making history. "Enemy weapons fire incoming," announced Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez. "Shield systems responding." On the main view screen, the alien energy beams visibly distorted as they encountered the Mjolnir's revolutionary shield technology, their destructive potential absorbed and channeled into the ship's power grid. "Shield capacitors at 110% capacity and rising," reported Chief Engineer Diallo. "The more they fire, the stronger our systems become." Wei Lin allowed herself a small nod of satisfaction. "Designate primary target and prepare main weapon system." "Target locked." "Enemy flagship," confirmed Rodriguez. "Nuclear force lance charged and ready." Wei Lin took a deep breath, aware that her next command would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. Fire. Aboard the inexorable Justice, Vexnar watched in growing horror as the human vessel's hull began to glow with golden light. A seam appeared along its forward section, opening like a blooming flower to reveal what could only be a weapon port. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted, but the order came too late. A concentrated beam of golden energy, as narrow as a stylus but carrying power that defied hegemony understanding, lanced out from the human ship. It struck the inexorable Justice midships, passing through its supposedly impenetrable shields as if they were merely decorative. The command deck shook violently as systems failed across the ship. Emergency lighting flickered on as primary power collapsed. "Damage report," Vexnar demanded, struggling to remain standing as the deck tilted beneath him. "Critical hit to our primary reactor. Shield generators offline. Weapons systems failing." His tactical officer's voice was nearly drowned out by the blaring of multiple alarm systems. "Impossible," Vexnar whispered, watching as secondary explosions rippled through his vessel's port section. "Their technology. They couldn't possibly." He staggered to the communications console, shoving aside the injured officer. With trembling hands, he activated the emergency broadcast channel to Hegemony High Command. "This is Commander Vexnar of the 3rd Battle Group. We are under attack by human forces at Mars. Their weapons, their technology, it's all deception. The humans have." His transmission cut abruptly as a secondary explosion tore through the command deck, plunging the ship into darkness. Across the Martian sky, the remaining hegemony vessels scattered in disarray, their coordinated formation dissolving into panicked individual retreat. From underground bunkers, human colonists watched through sensor feeds as the Mjolnir picked off 2 more alien vessels before allowing the rest to limp away. On Earth, Admiral Reyes received the encrypted transmission. "Operation Revelation complete. 3 enemy vessels neutralized. Remaining hostiles in full retreat. No casualties on our side." For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself a genuine smile. Phase 1 had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not to be underestimated. The Hegemony High Council chamber had never witnessed such chaos. Counselors from 12 dominant species shouted over one another, their translator devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Holographic displays showed the battle at Mars from multiple angles, footage transmitted by the surviving vessels of the 3rd Battle Group before they fled the system. Supreme Overseer Kel Methys, his ancient carapace bearing the ceremonial etchings of 200 planetary conquests, raised all 4 of his upper limbs for silence. Gradually, the chamber quieted. "We have been deceived," he stated, his voice modulated to project calm authority despite the unprecedented situation. The humans deliberately misrepresented their technological capabilities. Science Director Krellmore magnified a section of the hologram, showing the human vessel's impossible maneuvering patterns. "Their ship defies our understanding of propulsion physics. More concerning is this." The image shifted to show the golden beam cutting through the inexorable Justice's shields. "They have somehow weaponized manipulations of the strong nuclear force, a technology we believed impossible for at least another 8,000 cycles." "How?" demanded War Minister Gvizoth, her chitinous exoskeleton clattering with agitation. "Our infiltration protocols are flawless. We have cataloged every scientific installation on their planet." "Evidently not," Kel Methys replied dryly. "The humans showed us precisely what they wanted us to see." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For millennia, the hegemony had expanded through technological superiority, encountering no species capable of meaningful resistance. This foundational certainty had just crumbled. "The question before us," Kel Methys continued, "is how to respond." War Minister Gvizoth stepped forward. "The answer is obvious. We must destroy them before they develop further. I propose immediate deployment of the main battle fleet under Fleet Master Ornfall." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Fleet Master Ornfall, summoned for this emergency session, inclined his head respectfully. His record of 12 successful campaigns without a single defeat had made him legendary among hegemony forces. "I have studied the engagement data," Ornthal said, his voice carrying the measured confidence that had inspired generations of warriors. The humans have one, perhaps two vessels with this advanced technology. My fleet consists of 300 capital ships and supporting craft. Even with their impressive capabilities, they cannot stand against such numbers. Science Director Krellmore raised a cautionary appendage. We should consider diplomatic. Diplomacy failed the moment they concealed their true nature, Gizoth interrupted. This is no longer about resource acquisition. It is about hegemony security. If knowledge of this defeat spreads to our subject worlds. She left the thought unfinished, but every counselor understood the implication. The hegemony maintained control of 800 worlds through the perceived inevitability of their technological superiority. If that perception shattered, rebellion would follow. Kelmethus considered for a long moment before giving his authorization. Deploy the main battle fleet. Fleet Master Ornthal, you will proceed to the Sol system and neutralize this threat, by any means necessary. Admiral Reyes stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her uniform immaculate, despite having slept barely 8 hours in the past week. Behind her, holographic displays showed the 7 completed Thunderchild-class vessels, now stationed throughout the solar system. The Mars engagement exceeded our expectations, she reported. Captain Wei Lin's after-action analysis confirms our shield technology not only absorbs enemy weapons fire but converts it to usable energy, effectively turning their own power against them. Defense Minister Okafor leaned forward. And our intelligence assessment? Clear and unambiguous. The hegemony will respond with overwhelming force. Their entire social structure is built on technological dominance. Our demonstration threatens not just their military doctrine, but their civilization's foundation. Secretary General Mbiki's expression remained grave. How long until they arrive? Based on the FTL capabilities demonstrated by their scout ships, we estimate 2 weeks, perhaps less. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Humanity had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. What's the status of the Charybdis Protocol? Asked President Rodriguez. Reyes activated a new holographic display showing Saturn's rings glittering against the void. Dr. Kapoor's team has been working around the clock. The gravitic disruptors have been seeded throughout Saturn's rings, awaiting activation. If the hegemony fleet follows expected doctrine, they'll use Saturn as their staging area. When they do, the hologram simulated a wave of blue energy cascading through the rings. Their shield generators will fail simultaneously, Rice continued, but will only get one chance. Once they understand the principle behind the technology, they'll adapt. Admiral Chen of the Asian Confederation studied the tactical projections. 7 ships against their fleet, even with our technological edge and the Charybdis Protocol. The numbers don't favor us. Reyes allowed herself a small smile. 7 visible ships, Admiral Chen. What the hegemony doesn't realize is that we've been preparing for this moment since we first detected their scout ships 6 months ago. She entered a command sequence, and the holographic display expanded to show the space between Mars and Jupiter. Dozens of stealth signatures appeared, representing vessels that had remained undetected even during the Mars engagement. 53 additional Thunderchild-class vessels, constructed in asteroid facilities throughout the belt. Smaller than our capital ships, but each carrying the same shield and weapons technology. They've remained powered down to avoid detection. President Rodriguez studied the tactical display with newfound hope. Will it be enough? Admiral Rice's eyes reflected the determination that had driven humanity throughout its tumultuous history. It will have to be. The hegemony has never faced a species that could challenge them technologically. Their doctrine is rigid, their tactics predictable. We've studied every engagement in their publicly broadcast history. She straightened to her full height, her voice carrying absolute conviction. They're coming with everything they have. Good, they'll only get to underestimate us once. Fleet Master Ornthal stood motionless on the observation deck of the Sovereign Dominion, his eyes fixed on the magnificent formation spread before him. 300 capital ships arranged in the sacred hegemony battle pattern, their crystalline hulls reflecting Saturn's pale light. Supporting vessels moved between them like attendants servicing ancient gods of war. A formation worthy of the historical archives. Fleet Master, said Sub-Commander Telfmack, his voice carrying appropriate reverence. Ornthal allowed himself a moment of pride. In 12 campaigns spanning 8 decades, he had never known defeat. This 13th would cement his legend. The humans fought well against Vexenar's battle group, he acknowledged. Cleverness and deception are formidable weapons, but they cannot overcome overwhelming force properly applied. On the tactical display, Saturn's magnificent rings provided a backdrop for the fleet's final preparations. Hegemony doctrine demanded establishing a staging area at the edge of the target system, standard procedure for 5,000 years of successful expansion. Begin final system checks, Ornthal ordered. We advance toward the inner system in 6 hours. Our primary targets are their lunar bases and orbital installations. Once those are neutralized, we will accept their surrender or commence planetary bombardment. A junior sensor officer raised her head from her console, voice hesitant. Fleet Master, I'm detecting unusual particle activity in the rings. Specify. The ice crystals appear to be resonating at quantum frequencies not typically found in natural formations. Ornthal regarded her with measured patience. Saturn's rings have been extensively studied during our preliminary surveys. Their composition includes unusual radioactive elements not found in other systems. Your observation is noted but irrelevant to our tactical situation. The officer ducked her head. Of course, Fleet Master. Ornthal returned his attention to the fleet disposition. Their defense force appears to be marshalling near Mars. Just 7 capital ships according to our latest intelligence. They will be overwhelmed within minutes. Deep within Saturn's atmosphere, the specialized stealth vessel ESS Poseidon released its final payload of quantum disruptors. Lieutenant Commander Maya Wong watched the deployment screens as thousands of microscopic devices spread throughout the rings, joining millions of their counterparts already in position. Final dispersion sequence complete, Captain, she reported. Captain Hernandez nodded, watching the pattern form on their tactical display. The operation had taken 3 weeks of careful, silent work while avoiding hegemony patrols. Transmission from Admiral Reyes, the communications officer announced. The hegemony fleet is in position. Charybdis protocol is authorized. Activation sequence on her command. Hernandez took a deep breath. Prepare for emergency thrust. The moment those rings light up, we need to be accelerating toward Jupiter at maximum speed. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, knowing their role in humanity's most audacious defensive strategy. If successful, they would witness history. If they failed, well, humanity had always been good at adapting to the unthinkable. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the ESS Excalibur, watching as the holographic display showed Saturn's rings twinkling innocently against the darkness of space. Around her, the command crew of Earth's most advanced warship maintained professional calm despite the weight of the moment. The hegemony fleet remains in standard formation, reported her tactical officer. No indication they've detected our preparations. Reyes nodded. Status of our fleet. The 7 visible ships maintain position near Mars as planned. The stealth fleet is powered up and awaiting your command. She opened a channel to all Earth forces. This is Admiral Reyes. In the next few minutes, we will execute the most significant military action in human history. The hegemony believes they face 7 ships. They will soon discover their error. She paused, allowing her words to reach every vessel hidden throughout the solar system. Humanity has always been underestimated. By nature, by circumstance, by ourselves. Today, we demonstrate what happens when humanity's full potential is unleashed. Her finger hovered over the command interface. Initiate Charybdis protocol. On the bridge of the Sovereign Dominion, Ornthal was reviewing the approach vectors when every alarm system activated simultaneously. What is happening? He demanded. Energy surged throughout Saturn's rings. his science officer shouted, voice rising in panic. The readings are impossible. Through the viewports, Saturn's rings began to glow with blue-white energy, a wave of light spreading across their entire circumference. Before anyone could react, the energy reached the hegemony fleet. Ship after ship shuddered as invisible forces tore through their shield generators. Emergency lighting flickered across the fleet as primary systems failed. All shield generators offline, the tactical officer reported. Attempting emergency restart. Ornthal's mind raced to comprehend this unprecedented attack. Defensive formation. Recall all. Multiple contacts appearing from behind Jupiter's moons. The sensor operator interrupted. 50. No, 60 vessels. Configuration matches the human warship from Mars. The tactical display transformed as human ships seemed to materialize throughout the outer system. Unlike the rigid formations favored by the hegemony, they moved in fluid patterns that defied prediction. More alarmingly, the vessels began to change shape, hulls reconfiguring in real time, weapon systems transforming to adapt to the hegemony's vulnerabilities. Impossible, Ornthal whispered. No species in the hegemony's 5,000-year history had demonstrated adaptive ship architecture. Enemy vessels firing. Golden beams lanced through space, striking with unerring precision. Without their shields, the hegemony ship's armor offered minimal protection against the humans' weapons. As his proud formation dissolved into chaos, Fleet Master Ornthal faced the unthinkable. Defeat. His 12 flawless campaigns had never prepared him for an enemy who could anticipate and counter hegemony doctrine so completely. Emergency withdrawal, he ordered, voiced hollow with the weight of history being rewritten. All vessels, emergency FTL jumps to rally point Sigma. As the remnants of his fleet struggled to escape, Ornthal watched a human vessel approach his flagship. Its hull seemed to ripple with impossible fluidity, adapting its configuration even as he observed. For the first time in his distinguished career, Fleet Master Ornthal tasted fear, not just for himself, but for the hegemony's future in a galaxy where humanity could no longer be taken lightly. Supreme Overseer Kel Mathis stood rigidly in the transport shuttle's viewport, watching Earth grow larger against the starfield. His ceremonial armor felt unusually heavy, its ornate engravings chronicling victories that now seemed hollow in light of recent events. The hegemony diplomatic vessel Voice of Reason carried no weapons, a vulnerability that would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. The approach corridor they've designated is extremely precise, noted Chief Diplomat Frilixen, studying the navigation parameters. Deviation of even 2 kilometers will result in their defensive systems activating. Kelmethis acknowledged this with a slight movement of his secondary appendages. A reasonable precaution. We would demand the same. The truth, though neither spoke it aloud, was that the humans could demand whatever they wished. The Battle of Saturn's Rings, as it was already being called in encrypted hegemony communications, had shattered 5 millennia of uncontested military superiority. Nearly a third of Ornthal's fleet destroyed, another third severely damaged, and the rest in disorganized retreat, all without a single confirmed human casualty. The High Council has authorized me to offer significant concessions, Vrelksen said carefully. Resource-rich systems in adjacent sectors, technology exchanges, excluding weapons development, of course, and withdrawal of all territorial claims within 50 light-years of Sol. Kelmeth's outer eyes blinked slowly. You still think we are in position to negotiate terms? Supreme Overseer. Look at their planet. Kelmethis gestured toward the blue-white sphere growing in the viewport. Less than a single rotation ago, they faced subjugation by the most powerful force in the known galaxy. Now they possess the capability to attack our homeworlds if they choose. Yet their transmission requested diplomatic contact rather than surrender. He turned all 4 eyes to the diplomat. Prepare contingencies for demands we cannot yet imagine. The United Earth Diplomatic Station hung in geosynchronous orbit above Geneva, its modular design displaying the pragmatic aesthetics humanity favored. As the hegemony vessel docked, honor guards from 12 Earth nations stood at attention, their ceremonial uniforms a colorful contrast to the station's utilitarian architecture. Secretary General Amara Kwan waited at the end of the reception corridor, her dark formal suit adorned only with a simple pin representing Earth's unified government. Behind her stood Admiral Rice and representatives from the Security Council. The airlock cycled open. Supreme Overseer Kel Mathis ducked his massive frame through the human-sized opening, followed by his diplomatic contingent. The aliens moved with deliberate dignity, their postures revealing nothing of the defeat that had brought them here. Supreme Overseer Kel Mathis. Kwan greeted him with a respectful nod. Earth welcomes you. The translator device at Kel Mathis's throat processed his clicks and whistles. Secretary General Kwan. The Galactic Hegemony acknowledges your decisive victory. Please, she gestured toward the conference chamber. We have much to discuss. Inside the tastefully appointed chamber, Kel Mathis studied the humans with new appreciation. They had arranged a semicircular table with appropriate accommodations for hegemony physiology, raised sections for his species' height, climate-controlled areas for his companions' varying atmospheric requirements. Secretary General Kwan took her seat directly across from him. Before we begin formal discussions, I want to express our regret that our first significant interaction with the hegemony was through conflict. Humanity has long hoped that contact with other civilizations would lead to peaceful exchange. Kel Mathis's translator rendered his skeptical tone perfectly. A curious statement from a species that concealed unprecedented military technology. Admiral Reyes spoke for the first time, her voice level. A necessary deception given the hegemony's documented treatment of species deemed technologically inferior. The Supreme Overseer couldn't dispute this assessment. Hegemony archival broadcasts, transmitted across the galaxy as demonstrations of their power, had provided humans with extensive evidence of their standard approach to expansion. We are prepared to discuss terms, he said finally. Kwan nodded to an aide, who distributed data tablets to the hegemony representatives. As Kel Mathis reviewed the information, his confusion grew. He checked his translator for malfunctions, then read the terms again. This cannot be correct, he said finally. The terms are accurate, Kwan confirmed. You demand no territorial concessions, no technology transfers, no reparations. His upper limbs gestured in disbelief. You request only mutual recognition of sovereignty, non-aggression protocols, and open trade agreements, plus cultural exchange programs, Kwan added with a small smile. We're particularly interested in hegemony artistic and philosophical traditions. Kel Mathis studied the humans, searching for the deception. You possess the capability to dictate terms that would cripple the hegemony for generations. Why show restraint? Secretary General Kwan's expression remained composed. Because those aren't our objectives, Supreme Overseer. We built warships because we had to. We don't build empires because we choose not to. Later, as the formal negotiations proceeded, Kel Mathis requested a recess to confer with his delegation. Admiral Rice found him alone in the station's arboretum, studying a blooming cherry tree with evident fascination. An interesting species, he commented as she approached. Delicate appearance, yet remarkably resilient to environmental stress. Reyes nodded, allowing the metaphor to stand. We've had similar thoughts about many Earth organisms. Your restraint puzzles my advisors, Kel Mathis admitted. They suspect a deeper strategy we haven't yet discerned. The simple explanation is often correct. We want peaceful coexistence, not domination. After we attempted to subjugate your world. His 4 eyes focused on her. Most species would seek revenge. Admiral Reyes studied the cherry blossoms before answering. Humanity's history is filled with conflicts that spiraled out of control because victors demanded too much from the defeated. We've learned that true security comes not from crushing potential rivals, but from building relationships that make conflict undesirable for all parties. The Supreme Overseer was silent for a long moment. I have led the hegemony for 700 years. Admiral Reyes. In that time, I have encountered 43 spacefaring civilizations, None has surprised me as thoroughly as yours. His translator couldn't quite capture the complex emotion in his voice. Your unexpected mercy may prove more revolutionary to the galaxy than your remarkable warships. 1 year after the Battle of Saturn's Rings, the joint human hegemony station, Concordia, hung in space at Earth-Moon L4 point, its distinctive architecture a physical embodiment of the unprecedented alliance it represented. Crystalline spires reminiscent of hegemony design principles intertwined with the pragmatic modularity humanity favored. Gardens filled with plant species from a dozen worlds spiraled around gravity rings, where representatives from both civilizations conducted the daily business of peaceful coexistence. Ambassador Ornthal, formerly fleet master of the hegemony's main battle fleet, stood at the station's primary observation deck. The defeat that had ended his military career had, ironically, launched his diplomatic one. As the officer who had faced humanity's capabilities firsthand, the Supreme Overseer had deemed him uniquely qualified to serve as the hegemony's first permanent ambassador to Earth. The station has exceeded expectations, noted Admiral Reyes, joining him at the viewport. Our engineers learned much from your crystalline fabrication techniques. Ornthal inclined his head in acknowledgement. As ours have benefited from studying your modular approach, the living quarters my staff occupies are more comfortable than any hegemony vessel I commanded. They stood in comfortable silence, watching as a transport shuttle departed for the lunar colony. In the years since the peace accords, trade between their civilizations had flourished. Hegemony art and cultural artifacts commanded extraordinary prices in human markets, while Earth's entertainment media, particularly its music and storytelling, had become surprisingly popular throughout hegemony space. I've been studying your history, Ornthal said finally. Your species nearly destroyed itself multiple times, through warfare, environmental degradation, social division, yet you consistently emerged stronger. Reyes nodded. We've rarely had the luxury of easy solutions. Every existential threat forced us to innovate, compromise, find new ways forward. A crucible that forged remarkable resilience, Ornthal observed. The hegemony's expansion was too unchallenged. For 5,000 years, we encountered no civilization that could truly threaten us. It made us rigid. He turned to face her directly. You could have destroyed us. The data we've gathered since the peace accords confirms that your hidden fleet could have pursued our retreating forces all the way to our core systems. Why didn't you? Admiral Reyes smiled slightly and activated a holographic display between them. The projection showed the solar system, and scattered throughout it, hundreds of defensive installations and vessels that had remained hidden even during the conflict. Our actual capabilities exceeded even your current estimates, she acknowledged. But true strength isn't about winning a war, Ambassador. It's about building a peace that makes war unthinkable. Ornthal studied the projection with new understanding. The Hegemony Council would benefit from this perspective. Across the galaxy, the repercussions of humanity's unexpected demonstration of force and subsequent restraint continued to reverberate. On Neveri Prime, a world that had been under hegemony control for 3 centuries, local representatives formally requested renegotiation of their resource agreements, specifically citing human-style diplomatic principles. In the Hegemony Council chamber, Supreme Overseer Kel Mathis reviewed reports from a dozen similar worlds. The humans have inspired a diplomatic revolution without firing a shot beyond their system, observed Science Director Krulmore, who had developed an intellectual fascination with human culture. Is it revolution or evolution? Kel Mathis mused. For 5 millennia, we expanded through technological superiority and military dominance. It brought us 800 worlds, resources beyond counting, a golden age of achievement. He gestured to the reports. Yet these subject worlds now envision something different. Not independence, but partnership. Not freedom from the hegemony, but a voice within it. War Minister Gizoth, who had advocated for a second, larger campaign against Earth, clicked her mandibles in frustration. This contagion of ideas threatens everything we've built. Does it? Kel Mathis challenged. I have meditated on this question for many cycles. The humans could have destroyed our fleet completely, pursued us to our homeworlds, demanded surrender or annihilation. Instead, they showed strength through restraint, a concept alien to our traditions, yet undeniably effective. He activated a holographic projection showing trade figures between hegemony worlds and Earth. The numbers had increased exponentially each month since the peace accords. "We face a choice," he continued. "We can resist this transformation and risk genuine rebellion among our subject worlds, or we can embrace it and emerge stronger, as humans have done repeatedly throughout their history." In a classroom on Terex II, a world at the hegemony's outer boundaries, younglings gathered for their daily historical instruction. The teacher, a veteran of 3 hegemony expansion campaigns, activated the educational projector. "Today we begin a new curriculum approved by the High Council," he announced. "We will study the historical encounter between the hegemony and the human civilization of Sol System." The younglings straightened with interest. News of the humans had reached even their remote world, carried by traders and travelers eager to share tales of the species that had defied expectations. For the first time in recorded hegemony history, the teacher continued, "We encountered a species that not only matched our technological capabilities, but approached governance and diplomacy with fundamentally different principles." The projection showed images of Earth, human vessels, and the Concordia station. The humans taught us that true strength lies not merely in superior weapons, but in the wisdom to know when not to use them. They showed us that diversity of thought, which we once considered a weakness, can become a profound advantage when properly channeled. As the lesson continued, a message arrived on the teacher's private channel. The High Council had approved preliminary plans for the first-ever exchange program that would bring human educators to hegemony worlds and send selected younglings to study on Earth. Across the vastness of space, a new era was dawning. It had begun with a shocking military defeat, but was flourishing through something far more powerful: the exchange of ideas. The galaxy would never be the same, all because aliens never expected humanity's warships to be this strong, nor their mercy to be stronger still.